Rosie's on a vacation far away. Come around and talk it over. So many things that I wanna say. You know I like my girls a little bit older. I just wanna use your love tonight. Hello and welcome to the second episode of the New Scoop Podcast. I am glad you are joining me tonight as we look to break down some amazing tournaments that happened today in soccer, the Copa America Finals, and the Euros 2024. We'll start with the Euros 2024 between Spain and England. Today we are coming to you live from Southern Missouri. Switch up of location today. I'm visiting my grandparents. But, we still had to come in with the podcast today. England versus Spain kicking off at 2 p.m. Central Time. England searching for their first Euros since the creation of the tournament and their first major tournament win in international play since 1966. Everybody knows England is a powerhouse in club football. The Premier League is an incredible league. They have dynasties like Man United, Man City, Liverpool. But in international play, they're not the same. Spain is searching for their fourth Euro title win. Possession was Spain 65% compared to England's 35%. 6 Spain shots compared to England's 4. 3 yellows for England, 1 for Spain. But let's get to the action here. 24th minute, Harry Kane gets a yellow card for trying to get the ball around a Spain defender to start the action off. 29th, Dani Olmo gets called for a yellow card, cleating an English player. This game did not have a lot of action for the first half. Only notable piece of first half action is when Phil Foden made a hell of a job controlling the ball off of a deflection out of the free kick in the 45th minute for England, but it is just saved anyways, going into half scoreless. But then opening up, the 46th minute, Spain puts their mark down. Lamine Yamal finds the ball. He assists it to Nico Williams, who passes it just past Jordan Pickford's outstretched leg. Spain takes the 1-0 lead. Only 2 minutes later, Williams finds Dani Olmo, who beats Pickford, but he just misses it wide. For 54th minute, Yamal generates another chance, finding Morata, who had Pickford come in for it, but no goal. Deedon Rice has a pass intercepted, and Nico Williams nearly misses his second goal. As you can see, Spain was getting chances left and right to try to make it a 2-0 lead and could not get it there. Yamal gets another chance, but Pickford makes another great save. That was nearly a free shot. He was right. He could have put it left a little bit. Spain would have taken the 2-0 lead. Instead, in the 72nd minute, Saka finds room running down the pitch, juking defenders left and right, finding Bellingham, who dishes it to Cole Palmer, who ties the game 1-1 in a brilliant goal. What ball movement there is. In the 80th minute, looks like Spain's going to get another one. Williams, Olmo, and Yamal just keep bouncing off of each other. They have another brilliant attacking chance. Yamal just misses it. It is just saved. Yamal generates a couple chances this game. And then in the 85th minute, Orzabal advances the pass to his teammate, places position well, gets inside, sliding goal. Spain takes the 2-0 lead and wins the game. England is still searching for their first win in international tournament, a first international tournament win since the 1966 World Cup. Absolutely heartbreaking for England as they lose their second Euros in a row, and Spain captures its fourth. The takeaways from this game was Lamine Yamal, Dani Olmo, and Williams just played off of each other so well. They were attacking left and right. They were getting so many chances. It could have looked like the league could have been higher. England came out and they played well in the first half, limiting chances. But then in the second half, they played with an arrogance, especially after the goal. They got too confident. They played risky ball, and it led to way too many chances, which inevitably led to the goal. Spain wins the game because they played more tactical, more nitty gritty football, and that's really been the critique of the tournament so far. Is people have not liked the nitty gritty nature of the tournament. It is more like a North American, South American, CONCACAF kind of football, soccer, where it's nitty gritty. You really have to fight for it. It's not high scoring. It's a little less skillful, and they've been complaining about that. That's exactly what we get from the Copa America, nitty gritty. England likes their tactical football. Came with it today. They could not win. Spain did not play the tactical approach, and England misses out on another chance to grab their Euro crown. Last match of the international tournaments was the match between Argentina versus Colombia. Many were surprised to see this game even be played because of some of the things that happened before the game. Colombia and Argentina fans storming their way into the stadium. It was an absolute disaster for a long time there, but they did end up deciding to play the game. Argentina, they had a lower amount of possession time with 45% compared to Colombia's 55%. Argentina 6 goals, Colombia 4, and there was 2 yellows for both squads. Plenty of arguing with the officials today. There were a lot of unappreciated calls for both sides. Both sides felt like they got the short end of the stick with the referees. Argentina is playing for their 3rd straight international tournament win. Obviously, the World Cup in 2022, Copa Americas the year before that. Looking for their 2nd Copa crown in a row. Colombia is playing for their 20th straight game in international play to extend their record, not 28th, 29th. And it is Di Maria's final game in an Argentina uniform. So it would be big for him to go out on a win in this tournament. Early on in the 5th minute, Luis Diaz had a chance. Martinez makes the first save of the game. Cordoba has a shot hit the outside of the post. Di Maria finds Messi, but the shot is blocked. Score remains. A bunch of these early chances, all of them led to nothing. 32nd minute, Romero makes a great tackle to shut off the Luis Diaz chance. This is what we saw early on. Pretty much for the first 45 was a bunch of great tackles, great defensive plays, not a lot of offensive generating. Although in the 43rd minute, Messi sends a free kick over the header, lands just over the top of the goal. That was probably the best chance of the half. Messi messed up his ankle. He rolled it in the 35th minute. So he was dealing with that for the rest of the game. Moving on to the 53rd minute. Another missed header straight off of a corner. Nearly looked like it was going to cost Spain to take the first goal, the first lead of the game. Messi then, in the 63rd minute, experiences another injury on a non-contact play. This was truly a terrible scene. He had to come out of the game. He was subbed out, and you could see him on the sideline. He was emotional. It shows you his passion, how much he cares about these tournaments and his team. He's won absolutely everything. He does not need to be here. He is given the role for his country. He's won them World Cup. He's won them Copa. But the fact that it means this much to him, to the fact that he was tearing up on the sideline the way he was, is unbelievable. 74th minute, Fernando finds Telefico storming in. He spears the goal. Looks like it's going to stand. It doesn't. It's offsides. 90th minute, Di Marina picks the ball out of the Colombia defenders and looks for a clean shot but can't find one. He stumbles. The stumble, that game could have ended right there in the 90th minute. In the 94th minute, DePaul gives it to Gonzalez for the shot and nearly crosses the line. We're going to extra time. In the semifinals and in the finals of the Copa Americas, instead of going straight to a shootout, you do get the 30 minutes of extra time, which is always the thing in the Euros. But in the Copas, it's different. So we got the 30 minutes of extra time. First 15, nothing happens. Second 15, we go through the first 11 minutes or 10 minutes or so. Nothing showing. looks like we're going to go straight to a shootout. But the ball is advanced past Colombia defenders in the 111th minute. Martinez fires the game-winning goal with 4 minutes left, and Argentina wins again, grabbing their third crown in international tournaments and to recent dates. Messi is full smiles at this point. We're not sure how much longer he is going to be in an Argentina uniform. This is probably his last Copa America, and it is great that him and Di Maria in their final Copa Americas can grab the trophy, and we'll see what Argentina can do in the 2026 World Cup. They should be odds-on favorites. It was an unbelievable tournament. I wish the United States would have done more. That doesn't matter. It's a great tournament between many great teams, and I cannot wait for the next Copa America and Euro championships. But we have a great show today. Not just that. So coming up next, we're gonna get into a lot of good stuff. Stay tuned. Next up, we have a guest on the show to break down some MLB. All right, now I'm joined here by Phoenix Chanyaem. Thank you for joining, Phoenix. How are you today?
Doing all right.
All right, so I wanted to start with the New York Yankees. They have been one of the hottest teams in baseball this season, but as of recently, they have been struggled. Do you have any idea what's up with the Yankees?
I think it's one of those things where every good team is going to have a slump. Like, no matter what, every team's going to slump. And if I had to pinpoint it, I'm putting it on their shortstop, Anthony Volpe. For the past month, he's been batting 173, no home runs, 2 stolen bases. It's been even worse this past week. He's 2 for 21. And so I think everyone's going to go through a slump, but I mean, your shortstop has to have production or else you're not going to do very well.
You know, I can agree that the position players have not been batting for average as well. They have not won a series since this Oilers series, since the Royals series in mid-June. They've lost 17 of their last 26. Obviously, a bench just clearing brawl versus the Orioles yesterday. That was unbelievable. But the current starters, not named Judge or Soto, are hitting under 240. Every single starter not named Judge or Soto is hitting under 240. That's not a recipe for success. Aaron Judge obviously having a monster season, leading the league with 34 home runs, RBIs 85, and he has the number one OPS with the 1.114, and he's seventh in average with the 308. Juan Soto, not far behind, 300 batting average, 23 homers, 66 RBIs, and they're generating 10.9 wins above replacement. But other than that, you got Garrett Cole, who's not performing as well as normal, with 14 runs given up in 23 innings pitched. Lucas Gill's having a really strong season. His 3.17 ERA is definitely a model of consistency for the New York Yankees right now. So is Marcus Stroman. He's having a good season with his 3.51 ERA and the 1.332 whip. Nasty Nestor has had an improvement in his numbers from the last season, although his win percentage has gone down a little bit. Honestly, when checking the stats for this baseball team, everything is really contradictory of itself. 82 wins last season was the worst finish since the early 1990s, which were the desperation days, discluding the COVID season. The Yanks have had 3 of the top 100 outs above average. Anthony Volpe with 9. He's been a solid defender, although he's been struggling at the plate. DJ LeMahieu with 5 and Trent Grisham with 2, although they're ranked 5th in defensive runs saved, so it doesn't seem to be a problem. 4th in team pitching with a combined 3.54 ERA, and Soto and Judge are carrying the Yankees to the second best offense in the league so far. Anthony Volpe is a solid defender, and he's the 5th best base runner in the majors. Tim's base running with caution, only 6% advances above average, but he hasn't been thrown out, and he makes up 2 runners scored on the base running. So the guys are doing what they need to do technically, and this is why the Yankees have been successful. Honestly, I'm pretty sure that it's just a slump, and they will get out of it very soon.
Yeah, there's no reason to worry.
All right. That'll lead us to a team that's been rising after their early struggles, which was the Houston Astros. Houston Astros had a high expectations coming into the season. They have been on an absolute tear in the recent years of making the ALCS. Obviously, you have those two World Series, the cheating one in 2017, and the most recent one, I believe that was 2022. Um, but they started off the season 0-4 against the New York Yankees, and then didn't get any better. They struggled for a long time. It finally looked like the year they weren't going to make the playoffs, and now guess what? They're right back in it. And honestly, right now, I would pick them above the Mariners to win the American League West.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Above the Mariners?
Yep.
I mean, I don't know. It's one of those things where you don't. I mean, this team was slumping for a long time. Injuries have riddled them. Like Tucker's down, Verlander's down, and it's one of those things where if they can hold over the 500 mark, then yes, they can get above. They can beat the Mariners, but I mean, it's the Astros, and everyone's out to get them. And I don't see a world where they're finishing in first. There's too many injuries. They're too inconsistent. But I do think they have a chance for a wild card spot.
Phoenix, I think you could look at the Houston Astros by October. You could see them as the number 3 seed, and you could definitely see a lot of people picking them for the ALCS. But that's just my opinion. I do not like the Astros at all. So if they're unsuccessful, nothing that does not bother me. All right, let's move on to the MLB draft, which took place tonight. The Cleveland Guardians selected first. They added to a stacked team by adding Travis Bazana out of Oregon State. He had a 407 batting average this year, and he had twice as many walks as strikeouts. How well of a pick do you think this was for the Guardians as they try to boost an already strong team?
I think it's good. I know the shortstop's struggling a little bit, Brian Rocchio, the prospect, but I mean they need to pull it together. It was a difficult pick. He's definitely the most costly prospect they could have picked. So I'm surprised they went with it because they're going to have to open the checkbooks a little bit to afford him. But I mean, they want to win. They want to win now. And he's going to be in the majors in 2 to 3 years. And he's going to bring the whole country of Australia down to Cleveland, which I think is much needed. So I think this is a good pick. That they're willing to spend the money. I say bring him up in 1 to 2 years, and they can go for it all.
Yeah, the average call-up for a first overall pick is 3.7 years. Paul Skeens is absolutely blowing that out of the water. And Cleveland does not hope that they have a guy sitting in the minor leagues for that long. As, like you said, they're trying to make a push now. They have the team to do it, and they haven't won a World Series since the 1940s, and they want to get their fans that ring. All right, let's move on to a draft steal, in my opinion. The Kansas City Royals, my favorite team, your favorite team, with the was it the sixth pick? Selected Jack Caglione out of Florida. He is a two-way pitcher, playing first base and pitcher, batting .419 with 35 home runs and a 1.419 on-base plus slugging percentage, and 72 RBIs. 5-2 as a pitcher. The numbers don't look as good. 4.76 ERA. But how do you think they fare, and do you think they will let him be a two-way player?
I think this pick is just beginning of the Piccolo era. I know being more fired because we couldn't develop pitching. That was our problem. And so I think there's a need for pitching. Lugo's 34. Walker's getting up there. So we don't have a lot of prospects for the pitching department that aren't strong. So I think it's one of those things where, you're going to get a good bat. And maybe if the pitching works out, then we can throw a lefty up there that throws 100 miles an hour.
Yeah,
I think it's a great pick.
Yeah, his numbers pitching wise aren't great, but his velo is there. If he could get that command right, he can certainly be a great pitcher. All right, moving on. Are there any surprise teams that you're shocked by so far through this season?
And the one we just talked about them, the Cleveland Guardians, 58-37. And I heard so many people put the Twins, sometimes the Tigers, sometimes the Royals, but I never heard the Guardians' name as first place. Everyone thought their pitching was going to be the strong suit. It isn't. Tristan McKenzie was sent. Bieber's been down all year. Logan Allen, he's been struggling. Like, they have not been good at pitching, and their offense has been insane. Quan, next Tony Gwynn, like, I don't know. Like, dude can hit. Dude's hitting, what, like somewhere in the
He can
360s?
hit.
Like,
The Royals killer.
yeah, I mean, Guardians have been my shock, and I hate that, of course, it comes whenever the Royals start to win.
Yeah, really, the two AL Central teams, the Royals and the Guardians, have been the hot teams. That's the one I was going to talk about, too. It is unbelievable that they have been that good. They've created a model of consistency kind of out of nowhere. Obviously, they won the season the year before. The Twins won last year. But this year, I didn't expect much from this division. I expected the Royals to win it with about 86 to 84 wins, the Twins to be the runner-up with about 83, and the Guardians to be third place with 80. I did not expect them having this many wins by the All-Star break. I think that's unbelievable. I thought at the Royals' current trajectory, they would be easy number one in the division, and they're sitting at third right now.
And to be honest, I don't even think the Guardians thought they were going to do that good. Because, I mean, I remember a couple years ago, I don't know if this was last year or 2 years ago, they were talking about trading J-Ram.
Yeah.
And so I don't think they thought they were going to be in this place.
He's definitely... He seems to age like fine wine. Salvador Perez, he's slowed down. He's bringing it back up this season, but so is J-Ram. He's aging. He's aging great, playing great ball at an old age.
Oh yeah.
That team searches for their first ring this season. Alrighty, let's move on to your favorite team in the NBA. Who do you think is a player that can elevate the Brooklyn Nets to maybe a potential playoff spot this year, as they had kind of a rough year last year after having to abandon the Durant, Kyrie, and Harden era after not winning anything?
I thought about this one the most. There's a lot of interesting teams. Obviously, we didn't get any draft picks this year.
Yeah.
Kind of sucks, but, there's Ben Simmons coming back from injury. There's what's his name, Cam Thomas. I think the most unexpected has got to go back to Jalen Wilson.
God,
I know you're gonna like that pick. Former KU player. He got some playing time. He got pretty good. I mean, he was worth a few starts, and he got up there a little bit, got a little feet in the water. And I think if we're rebuilding and trying to tank, I think you give him a shot and just let him just see what he can do.
Yeah, you completely stole my pick. That's exactly what I thought. Jalen Wilson coming out of Kansas obviously led the Kansas Jayhawks with Ochai Agbaji to the national championship, where they won it all in 2022 under Bill Self. Had a pretty good year in 2023 and was a second-round draft pick. Now, he looked like one of the better second-round draft picks to me in his latest summer league game. 8 for 17 from the field, 5 for 9 from three-point range, and 25 points. So he looks like a guy that can shoot the ball solid, and that's what he was at Kansas. He was a leader, a defender, and a great shooter. And I think he could be that for the Brooklyn Nets too.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and if I had to pair him with someone else, it'd be him and Noah Clowney. Noah Clowney I didn't hear much of, but he's a former first-round pick, and he's a first-round pick for a reason. So my hope for this season was give Clowney and Wilson some playing time, and I think we can see some improvements and hopefully build around them.
All right. I have skipped over an MLB segment, so we're going to go right back to that, and then we'll move on. Hunter Harvey added to the Kansas City Royals. Do you think this can elevate them to true contention in the AL? Or do you think they'll be sitting around this 500 point for around the rest of the season?
I look at this and I think, yes, he's going to help. But he's a closer, and a decent closer is going to blow maybe 10 saves a year, maybe. So that's 10 games, which is a big improvement. But, I mean, to use a closer, you have to be winning by the end of the game. And I think when we lose, it's always by a big deficit. I can't remember the last. I mean, unless we come back from like a huge 10-0,
Yeah.
But I mean, closers, it's going to help a lot, and I think this tells everyone that we're going for it. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's just a closer. I think it'd be different if we got an outfielder.
Yeah, he's been a little less hot this year, but last year, pitching to a 2.82 ERA with a 0.94 whip, generating a good amount of wins above replacement. He's a solid pitcher. He's not going to get you to a World Series, obviously. It's honestly, and it frustrates me to think about this considering the start we have, but we're a 2022 Orioles. We're not ready to make a push yet. We're ahead of schedule. I shouldn't be worried. We already have so many more wins than we did last season, but we're not there quite yet. Maybe you could compare it to a 2014 Royals team. I'm thinking one step below that, a little step above the 2013 Royals, a little step under 2014. They could get into the playoffs. They can maybe win in the wild card, but I don't see them doing much after that.
Yeah, I mean, he throws 100. We need a little bullpen depth, and we have him 1 year of arbitration after that. So, I mean, this is also a trade where if we can't win this year and we decide to push next year, we still have that guy that throws 100 and can beat that high leverage guy, which we are missing.
Yeah, obviously the bullpen have had some very bad stretches this year. A lot of blown saves. You feel like you're never safe with the 2-run lead sometimes with this team, and you feel there's guys on the team that can't even get 3 outs without giving up 2 or 3 runs. It's really frustrating. All right, let's move on to your second favorite NFL team, the Los Angeles Chargers. They acquired their new head coach, Jim Harbaugh, out of from the Michigan Wolverines. Obviously, he had that national championship season with the Wolverines last year, and with his head coaching stints in the NFL before, led the 49ers to a Super Bowl where he lost to his brother John. But he has proved over the years that he is a tremendous head coach. How long and how do you think he's going to turn around this Chargers team from missing the playoffs last season?
You know, Jackson, I'm not going to lie to you, I have no clue. Now, because you get a winning head coach, so that says you're going for it. And then you trade away all your pieces. You know, you trade away your all-star Keenan Allen. You let Austin Eckler, walk in free agency and go to the Commanders of all teams. But I mean, and you don't really get any star players back. So I'm confused. Like maybe he's a defensive coach and he doesn't need that big of an offense. I'm not sure. I think he's going to help. I think he's going to help Herbert's production go up immensely, and I think he's bringing the team in the right direction. But I don't think the offseason move said we're winning in 2024. So I don't know what we're doing, but I think the head coach is going to move us in the right direction. But I can't give you an answer on if it's going to help us win.
Chargers are clearly looking to reload in my mind after having that playoff choke against the Jaguars a couple seasons ago. They kind of needed a restart with some of the older guys, in my opinion. Jim Harbaugh's certainly going to bring out, like you said, the best in Justin Herbert, who's had it all stats-wise but hasn't really had the wins when they need to be there. He is a great developer. He got the most out of J.J. McCarthy, who in my mind is a terrible quarterback, at Michigan last season to lead them to a national championship. The 2 years before that, they had 2 chokes in the playoffs, but he won his first major trophy. Now he comes to the NFL, and he'll look to maybe get this team in a playoff contention this season, if not in the near future. All right, let's move on to the Kansas City Chiefs. They had receiving troubles all year last season. It was bad, a record-setting amount of drops for them. It calmed down in the playoffs a bit, and obviously they still won the Super Bowl. The Chiefs seem to be inevitable, but which Chiefs wide receiver do you think could have the best increase of production in the 2024 season?
Some people might not like my answer. And I looked at this team, and you only essentially use 4 receivers, and I think it's up to this person entirely. I'm going to go with former first-round pick, Kadarius Toney.
Wow, I knew you would say that. That's crazy. What makes you say that?
So looking at this team, you got Rashee Rice. Everyone thinks he'll be great, but he's having legal troubles. So I don't know if I can count on him to even show up to the game without being in jail. Marquise Brown, obviously going to be wide receiver 1. But I mean, we all know what we're gonna get out of him. We all know what we're gonna get. Xavier Worthy, his speed. He looks a little skinny. He's a little fragile. Herman's getting old. Watson there. more So, I think all that's left is I think Tony is going to decide whether he wants to stay as a Super Bowl winner and help us get there, or if he's going to quit out and want to go to like the stinking Raiders or something.
Yeah, as of right now, it does not look like Rashee Rice will be serving any major suspension, but we are not 100% sure with that. As you said, the legal troubles. I think he is, if we have anything that's a number one wide receiver, that he is it. I don't think Hollywood Brown at this point in his career, or really ever, has really been a wide receiver one. A solid wide receiver two, yes. But luckily, Mahomes can make it work with just a bunch of wide receiver twos. I think a first rounder like Xavier Worthy can elevate his play enough. Obviously, the kid runs a 4.21 40-yard dash speed. Like you said, he's a little skinny, 140 pounds. Needs to put some weight on the bones, but I've seen the guy absolutely truck some guys. Even though the weight is absolutely down, he can still deliver the hit when he needs to. And his last season in college, he had 1,014 yards, 13.5 yards per reception, and 5 touchdowns. His freshman season, he recorded 12 touchdowns. Sophomore season, he had 9 touchdowns. So the least amount of touchdowns he had was in that senior season, where Texas went to the college football playoffs before losing to Washington. I think if he can elevate his play and have the kind of season Rashee Rice had last year, that we weren't expecting for him to be that good, then I see the Chiefs raising another Lombardi trophy by February.
Oh, yeah. I think this is a wide receiver room with a ton of potential. But right now, I just think they're all performing underneath it. And I think if we just take that next step, biggest, best wide receiver room, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. I'm not even sure the Chiefs need all the good wide receivers, because obviously we saw them do it last year with less. A very impressive season last year. Looking for the three-peat for the first time in the history of the NFL, so Patrick Mahomes could submit his GOAT legacy. All right. That was our last segment. Thank you so much, Phoenix, for coming on. You're welcome anytime, and I'm glad you could join us today.
Yeah, thank you. It's been a pleasure.
All right. Let's get to the next segment. I live in the Buffalo, New York area. The Bills fan base is a very passionate fan base and has seen a lot of heartbreak. They went and lost Super Bowls 4 in a row. They had the Music City Miracle happen to them, an illegal forward pass. They lost in 13 seconds to the Kansas City Chiefs in the divisional round. And unfortunately for the Buffalo Bills, they're not going to like this one. But I think they have missed their first generation to win a Super Bowl under Josh Allen. This is not the season for the Buffalo Bills, in my opinion. The Bills in 2023 were fourth in team defense, 18.3 points allowed per game, good for fourth in scoring defense, second in advanced defense, and seventh in passing defense, 15th in rushing. The sixth in total offense, eighth in passing, seventh in rushing offense. Pretty solid team last year. Got all the way to the divisional round again, where they ran into their kryptonite, the Kansas City Chiefs. They have lost some players this season. Coming into the year, they have a weakened receiving core. They lost Gabe Davis. They lost Stephon Diggs. They lost Tyrell Dodson, their center Mitch Morris, Leonard Floyd, and their corner Tre'Davious White. Some key losses right there. On the receiving corps, you have to make some key replacements here. Fifth rounder Khalil Shakir last year had a very solid season. He looks to expand on that rookie season where he had 611 yards, 15.7 per reception. Very solid year for a fifth-round draft pick, but he isn't a number one wide receiver. Keon Coleman, drafted 33rd overall. His college stats don't show number one receiver. He's a solid player, but in his senior season, he had 658 yards and 11 touchdowns with 13.2 yards per reception, and he's not going to instantly come into the NFL and be a number one guy. Bills fans believe that Marvis Valdes-Scantling, Curtis Samuel, Chase Claypool are going to be big signings for them. That's somehow going to elevate this wide receiver corp. One of those guys will be number ones. I had someone tell me today, oh, we're just going to have MVS is probably going to be our wide receiver number one this season. How can you say MVS has been a consistent liability? He's a wide receiver number 4. And just because he has some clutch catches in prime time for Kansas City doesn't mean that he is going to be a number 1 receiver. Chase Claypool, just because he had a decent rookie season 4 years ago, does not mean he's going to be a good player. Stop trying to convince yourself that this receiver corp is anywhere close to last year's or anywhere close to what it has been. Josh Allen is dealing with a receiving corp that is similar to the 2023 Chiefs receiving corp. Multiple guys going into prove-it years. They have a rookie who could be the bright spot and some old vets who probably won't produce much. Josh Allen, while being one of the best quarterbacks in the league, in my opinion, the third best behind C.J. Stroud and Patrick Mahomes, I do not know if he will be able to elevate this receiving corp the way Patrick Mahomes was able to elevate his last season. He does have Dalton connected, Dawson Knox, who I think is a great tight end room. That'll be great. But it's really all up to Josh Allen, who I know will be good, but I don't know if the team around him is good enough to make a push. Despite the high defensive numbers in the past seasons, the Bills' 3 amazing edge rushers, Greg Rousseau, AJ Espanza, and Von Miller, only combined for 11.5 sacks in 2023. And not only that, but they're tied for the 6th hardest strength of schedule. It's not an easy schedule out there for them. Also, they have a weakened secondary. They lost Trey White, big corner for them. They're looking for guys like Kyer Elam, their first rounder from years ago, to step up. If they don't get some of those step ups, they could have a very weakened secondary. That pass defense could go down drastically. All right, let's take a look at the schedule. Found this interesting. Week 1, they go play Arizona. They'll be the home team. Arizona's coming to Buffalo. I gave Buffalo the win there. That's honestly closer than a lot of people think it will be. It probably will be a fourth quarter game. Arizona's going to be a much improved team, and Buffalo's going to be a lot worse. Week 2, going to Miami. I give Miami the win there. Straightforward. Miami's great early in the season when the warm weather's out, when they're playing at home. They got a great receiving corp. Tua Tagovailoa is going to play a decent enough game, and they're going to get the win there. Tough game, week 3 against the Jacksonville Jaguars. That's kind of a 50-50 in my mind. I gave the Buffalo Bills the win there. I think the Jaguars will be not that fantastic this season. I do not think Trevor Lawrence is phenomenal how we thought he would be coming into the draft. The Baltimore Ravens, you're going to the Baltimore Ravens. You're going to lose that game. The Baltimore Ravens are going to be one of the best teams again. Then you go to the Houston Texans the week after that, and the Houston Texans aren't no easy task. Also, you got C.J. Stroud, who I think is the second best quarterback in the league. That receiving corp's great. That'll be a loss. And they have Stephon Diggs now. They took Stephon Diggs from you, and he's going to put up numbers against you guys. Then week 6 away, I gave you the win versus the Jets first time around. So you're going to start 3-3. Then you're going to pick up 3 straight wins against the Titans, Seahawks, and Dolphins. It's the Dolphins late in the year, so at home, Buffalo, they won't be able to play in that weather. Buffalo's going to grab that win. The Seahawks, I don't find them to be amazing competitors this year. Geno Smith's getting old. They're not going to be tremendous. And the Titans, I don't think Will Levis is the guy. I don't think he's the answer. All right, week 11. You get Kansas City at home. Oh, you've had their number in the regular season in the past couple seasons. You're not beating them. You're not beating the Kansas City Chiefs. Kansas City Chiefs grab that game, and then you got to play the Super Bowl runner-up the week after that. You're going to lose to the Super Bowl runner-up. You're going to lose to the Niners in week 13. You're going to drop another one week 14 to the Rams. Another one week 15 to the Lions, coming in 4 straight losses. Not only that, but I also skipped over week 10, where you go play the Indianapolis Colts. You're going to lose that game too. Indianapolis Colts with Anthony Richardson is going to be a very solid team this year. So you're going to go on a 5-game losing streak. Then you're going to get New England at home. You're going to beat New England. New England's not a very good football team. I gave the Jets the second game of the series in Week 17. Jets are going to be a solid team this year. They have a good defense. If Aaron Rodgers can produce well, then that'll be a good team this season. And then you get New England in Foxborough, and you'll beat New England in Foxborough. New England sucks. 8-9. Wow. Bills fans aren't going to like that one. I could be a little bit biased. You could say that. That's fair. I don't think I am. I think it's difficult for this team to elevate. So it's a younger team right now. They have to retool. They have to reload. I also don't think Sean McDermott is the answer. I saw him fake that punt in the divisional round game, and that was one of the worst coaching calls I've seen. I was absolutely flabbergasted at that they did that. And I mean, just sign Mike Vrabel at this point. Like, why is he not your head coach right now? That he could be responsible for an extra win this season. But McDermott's not the guy. This team's young. Once you get a receiver and you get some depth there, then we'll talk. I think next year you're going to be back. Don't worry. This isn't a long, you're going to start missing the playoffs for years and years to come. No, you're going to be right back in the mix the year after this, but you're going to have a rough going at this year. And Bills fans are not going to like to hear that. Our next segment is going to be on emerging Rookie of the Year candidate Paul Skeens. Let's talk about a guy in Major League Baseball who's making absolute headlines right now. The first overall pick from last year, Paul Skeens, has only started 11 games and is now responsible for 6 wins and 0 losses. He started the season playing in the Pirates' AAA affiliate, and he made his call up 2 months ago, and he is already starting in the MLB All-Star game for the National League. He has thrown 66 innings and already thrown 89 strikeouts, meaning he averages 1.3 strikeouts an inning. His whip is sitting at a .920, and his ERA is a 1.90. He's having one of the most impressive rookie seasons we have seen in recent history, and he is an obvious choice for NL Rookie of the Year. MLB's average call-up time for first overall picks is around 3.7 seasons, yet Paul didn't even play a full season in the minors. He got called up straight through the system almost instantly. He is responsible for 3.2 wins above replacement already through the season. Paul Skeens is a threat and will always be a threat for the Cy Young race for years to come. And he has a chance to grab his claim as the best pitcher in the league, honestly. Only a year ago, he was capturing the national championship at Louisiana State University and was the first overall pick, and now he's breaking records as one of the youngest pitchers in the league, starting in all-star games. Unbelievable. The other night, he went 7 innings without giving up a hit, and he got pulled. His fastball velo is hitting triple digits. He has control. He can pitch a long time, and he could be a Sandy Koufax, a Nolan Ryan, or he could be a Roger Clemens. This is one of the next great pitchers, and I would not be surprised to see this man in the Hall of Fame. He's going to make the All-Star game maybe 19 times, play that long, win multiple World Series, maybe stay with the Pirates, maybe go to a bigger team like the Yankees. He's the first member of the 2023 class to get called up in the majors and was called up, frankly, before a lot of the guys in the 2022 class and even the 2021 and 2020 class. Jackson Holliday is still sitting down in the minors. Has struggled in his first stint in the majors, and Paul Skeens is up here starting in the National League All-Star game. If you were to listen to this episode on Monday, July 15th, well, congratulations. College Football 25 is officially out. First college football video game made by NCAA since College Football 14. And with the revamped series, there's been a little bit of controversy in the rankings. team rankings have been a little shaky. I'll read you him. I have them listed down right here. I'll read you them here. First five: Georgia, Ohio State, Oregon, Bama, Texas. Those are my top five. The order in my mind is a little bit different, but they are right there. There is nothing wrong with that. Number 6, Clemson. Interesting. I'm pretty sure Clemson's win total is set at around 9.5, 8.5 right now. And they have been, in recent years, a great football team under Trevor Lawrence and Deshaun Watson, but they haven't been able to get the guy after him that's been able to lead the program to that kind of level of success. I am an absolute Dabo Swinney homer. I love Clemson. I think they're a good team every year. I think they're going to contend for the ACC this year. But to put them as the number 6 team, especially after Florida State had the season they had, and Clemson had the season they had, to put them all the way up at 6 is crazy in my mind. I disagree with Notre Dame at 7. Not going to go too into that. I understand why they did it. LSU at 8 is a little high for my liking, considering they just lost their Heisman quarterback, Jaden Daniels. One of the best quarterbacks in college football, plus the defense last year was lackluster. We'll see how it is this season. Will they be the same? Will it be different? They're the number 8 team. Number 9, we got Penn State. That's about right. Number 10 is Utah. They're one of my underrated teams. They've been underrated by the media this season. But to have them all the way up at 10 in my mind, way too high. I do not think they're winning the Big 12 this season. It's going to be different for them switching from Pac-12 football over to Big 12 football. We'll see how that translates. They'll be one of the best teams in the Big 12. I believe they'll be in the championship game with Kansas, but I do not expect them to win the Big 12 this season. Michigan at 11. They lost a lot of talent, a lot of production. Their quarterback, their head coach, they lost pretty much everything. It makes sense that they're lower down. I would have had them even lower than that, but I'm not going to make a problem with that. Florida State at 12. You got Miami at 13. What the hell is Miami doing at 13? Miami was an 8-4 football team last year, a pretty strong team. They're always a dark horse for the ACC. I'm not saying all that, but they haven't been a top 15 level team. I think that's too high for them. I think they need to be lowered, maybe the late 20s. Texas A&M is next. Texas, what is this, 14? Texas A&M sitting at number 14? Really? Wow, that's pretty high. You have a lot of belief that they're going to turn it around. Obviously, they've had great classes, just haven't lived up to the expectations. Jimbo Fisher obviously got the cut. Texas A&M is going to be a much improved team. I can agree with that. Ole Miss at 16, fine by me. Colorado at 17. I think this is what people had the most problems with on this list. Colorado being at 17 when teams like Tennessee were left off the list completely. So in their minds, Colorado's the second best team in the Big 12. What makes you say this? This is Deion Sanders homer right here. Well, they have quarterback Shedeur Sanders and wide receiver / corner Travis Hunter, but that's about it. They had transfers. They get plenty of transfers. But we're talking about a team that went 1-11 and then last year went 4-8. I'm sure they'll have an better season this year. I think they could be a 7-win football team this year, but nowhere near a top 15 squad. I think 17 is way too high. I do not agree with that. I would not put them that high. They're not that high in my Big 12 ranking. They're not that high. Ridiculous. OU next. I understand this because of historical facts. They went 10-3 last season. I just think if you look at their schedule, they're not as strong of an SEC team as a Texas is right now coming in. So they're not going to be at that level yet. They'll probably have like 6 or so wins. I don't see them being at an 18th ranked team. But, they had losses go which way last year. They lost to Oklahoma State and Stillwater, Kansas and Lawrence. Obviously, they lost to Arizona in that bowl game. We'll see how their season shakes out. Although I do think They need a little more support from the SEC. OU is trashed on unfairly. They've beaten Texas in recent years more often than Texas has beaten them. They've been the better team in recent years, and people act like none of that's true. People home for Texas way too much. They have been forever. It's kind of ridiculous. Wisconsin is sitting at 19. I think Wisconsin's a sleeper team this year. I have no problem with that. They're definitely, I could see them being a top 25 team. Number 20, USC. Interesting there. They they really have to figure out the defense if they want to be that high. And last season's Holiday Bowl, you saw USC come out and beat a Louisville team 42-28, with Miller Moss having 372 yards, 6 touchdowns, and an interception, going 23 for 33. So if he's that level of quarterback, oh yeah, they're going to have the offense isn't the question. The defense has always been the question and will continue to be the question until they prove that it's not. Virginia Tech is the next team. 21's too high for Virginia Tech squad. 7-5 last year. They're always a good team. They've been pretty decent for the last couple years. Trying to pick it up now. Their fans think they're a better team than they are. They think they can be into the 12-team playoff. I do not see them in that. NC State at 21, coming off of a loss in the Pop-Tart Bowl to Kansas State. I don't understand why they're ahead of Kansas State. I don't like Kansas State, but NC State is not a better squad than Kansas State is. Nor are they better than the number 22 squad, Kansas, who I think is going to win the Big 12 this year. I am glad that Kansas is in this top 25, so I'm going to shut up and not complain about that. We're around here in most preseason top 25s. We're in the 25 to 20 range, so I'm acceptable with that. And when we're a top 10 team, hey, I told you so. Arizona sitting at 22. Or I'm sorry, 23. I was high on Arizona, and then their head coach left for Washington after Kalen DeBoer left for Alabama, and then I was like, okay, they got the head coach from San Jose State University. It's a solid replacement, but they're not going to have the season they had last year, the 10-3 season with beating Alabama, finishing ranked. That was an incredible year. Not going to have the same year. Not ranked in my opinion. Oklahoma State sitting at 24. I think could be a little low. I think they're about the same team they were last year, 9-3. Games going each way. Ollie Gordon, obviously one of the best running backs in the nation. Kind of the Barry Sanders of this team right now. Oklahoma State legend Barry Sanders. And then number 25 team, you got Iowa. Iowa. Why is Iowa even ranked? We do this every season. Iowa's awful offensively every year and really good defensively every year. Iowa State's going to win the game between those two this year. Iowa State's the better Iowa team. If you're going to rank one of the Iowa teams at 25 spot, rank Iowa State. So I think a lot of people had problems with this list, especially because, I mean, you look at the teams that were included, like Iowa, NC State, Virginia Tech, USC, Colorado, even Miami over Tennessee. I think a lot of people could see them getting into the 12-team playoff. I know they're in mine. So I can't understand that. But we'll get more into the 12-team playoff up here in this next segment. It has finally come. What has finally come? The 12-team expanded college football playoff. People that have been waiting for it for a long time now. It had been 4 teams for the past 10 years or so once they expanded from the BCS era. Now they're going all the way to 12 teams for a couple years before they expand again to 14. I'm all about it. I like these games. I'll shoot you a predictions on my bracket, my 12 team, and then I'll give you some must-watch games for the regular season for sure. There's some rivalries in this bracket. There's some rematches in this bracket. I built a pretty solid bracket here, and if this shakes out this way, then it'll be fun. We'll start at the top left of the bracket. We got the 9 seed Clemson versus the 8 seed Utah looking to go play the 1 seed Georgia. This will be in Utah, because the first round matchups, whoever has the higher seed gets to host the game this season. That'll be fun. I expect Clemson to beat Utah at home, move on to play Georgia. Moving on to 12-5, we got Liberty versus Texas. 12 is Liberty, 5 Texas. Come on, Liberty's a group of 5 team. They'll be a 12-0 group of 5 team, but they're not beating Texas. Texas wins, goes on to play number 4 ranked team, Florida State. Moving to the other side of the bracket, we have Penn State versus Alabama. Give me the Southern Tide. Give me Alabama. Roll Tide. Alabama Crimson Tide is going to win that game. Go on to play number 2 Oregon from the Big Ten. All right. Next we got a little rematch game. Ohio State University versus guess who? Nebraska. In their first year of Dylan Raiola, they're already in the college football playoff. Well, yeah, I think that's something they're able to do this year with the team they have. Sadly, for the Huskers, it will be the second time they play the Ohio State Buckeyes and the second time they lose to the Ohio State Buckeyes, as the Ohio State Buckeyes go on to play the number 3 ranked team coming out of the Big 12, the Kansas Jayhawks. Moving on to the second round, we got Clemson versus Georgia. 9 seed Clemson, Georgia 1. Georgia's going to grab that game pretty easily. It'll be the second time Georgia plays Clemson this year, the second time Georgia beats Clemson this year. Texas versus Florida State, 5 seed versus 4. This will be a competitive matchup. This will be a fun matchup, and Texas will grab the win there for an SEC rematch and an SEC semifinal. Georgia and Texas are going to play maybe 3 times this season, probably 3 times this season, because I see them playing in the playoff, the SEC championship, and they play in the regular season. Move to the other side of the bracket, we got Bama versus Oregon. Bama number 7, and everybody knows I'm an Oregon homer at number 2. Getting Dylan Gabriel out of Oklahoma to come to your program is elite, and they have built absolute consistency. They built a Southern-like program over there in the West, and now they're moving to the Big Ten. They're going to win it in their first year. But give me Alabama. I'll take Alabama. I'll take Alabama to upset. Kalen DeBoer is going to have an incredible first season, getting his team all the way to the semifinals. My team, Kansas, playing number 6, Ohio State. This is where the run ends. Kansas doesn't win a playoff game this season. Our best year in team history. Going to be our first Big 12 title, in my opinion. But Ohio State University gets the win. Unfortunate, both of my teams go out to Ohio State in the first 2 rounds. Sucks to be me. In the semifinal matchups, we got Georgia versus Texas. Rematch from earlier this season. And I just expect Georgia to get it done. Georgia's going to be the team. They're going to put the crown back on the head this season. Last year, didn't get into the playoffs after losing to Alabama in the SEC championship. Probably would have three-peated for the first time since the Minnesota Golden Gophers back in the 30s. You got Bama versus Ohio State on the other side of the bracket now. Give me Ohio State in that game. Leading you to a really good final, a rematch of a couple years ago, college football playoff semifinal from a couple years ago, C.J. Stroud and Ohio State versus Georgia a couple years ago, and we know what happened in that game. One of the best games ever. Georgia won, and this time Georgia will win again. Georgia will put the crown back on the head. They're the kings of the sport right now. They're the best program for the next 10 years, and they're going to win another one. All right, let's move on to some important games for the season. Obviously, we have Texas-Georgia is going to be a very important game this season. These are 2 of the best programs, 2 of the best programs in the national level, 2 of the best programs in the SEC. They've been killing it recruiting, and Texas made the semifinals last year. Georgia was the 6th ranked team. Georgia was the best team in the sport. They just lost one to Alabama late in the year. These are going to be 2 of the best teams again. It'll be fun to see this matchup. I expect Georgia to grab this win. Who knows? Maybe Texas will grab this one. Georgia will grab the one in the SEC chip. Not sure yet, But it'll be a great matchup to watch. That'll be one of the best games of the season. That game happens October 9th. That'll show us a lot about the tournament and a lot to do with the college football rankings. Obviously, we have Michigan at Ohio State, always a big game every single season. I snubbed Michigan out of my playoffs this year. I think it's a retool and reload year. Won the national championship last year. Completely different squad this year. But this Ohio State game, if they come in and they're winning games and they go and beat Ohio State, then never mind. Forget what I said. It doesn't even matter. What about Ohio State versus Nebraska? Week 8. It's going to be a great game. Two undefeated teams at the time, in my opinion. Maybe a college game day game, big new kickoff type ordeal. And if Nebraska can pull off the upset there, we're looking at a completely different team than I thought we were. We're looking at a national championship contender rather than just a playoff contender. So that'll be big to see where Nebraska is at. If they're at the level of one of those teams, don't believe they are yet. Georgia versus Alabama, September 28th. Two of the semifinal matchup teams in my bracket. Two of the best programs, the top two programs for the next 10 years in my mind. Two historical programs. I believe Georgia will grab this win. Kirby Smart and Georgia will win. Kirby Smart hasn't had a good history versus Alabama. Obviously, he lost to Saban multiple times. He lost in the SEC championship, lost in the national championship. But we'll get past the hump this season. Georgia's going to be the kings of the sport once again. Georgia Ole Miss. That'll be another great game. November 9th. Ole Miss is trying to make a name and say, hey, we're one of these elite top 5 teams. Not just on the cusp. Ole Miss is going to have a great season this year. In fact, I had Penn State in my bracket at 10. It's really a toss-up between them and Ole Miss in my mind. Maybe they'll beat maybe they'll get the Huskers out of the tournament and they'll be the number 11 seed. I could totally see Ole Miss in the 12-team playoff. But if Ole Miss beats a Georgia, then the story changes and they're even better than just a playoff team. They're a national championship contender. Ole Miss at LSU. I'm not expecting LSU to be the kind of team that a lot of people are this season. You lost your quarterback on offense. You didn't have a good defense last year, but we'll see what they are. That'll be a fun game. Clemson at Florida State is going to be our last one. That will be big. It could be the ACC championship, but it'll also tell us who's boss of the ACC right now. Obviously, most people think it's Florida State right now, and I don't blame them, but I think there's a very good chance that Dabo Swinney and Clemson win that game and become the kings of the ACC once again. Incredible head coach. They get the job done often. They're both of those teams are very solid football teams that are going to have great programs for the next years to come. And we'll see if Clemson can go back to their former glory and start winning national championships and contending for those once again. Last year was a bit of a controversial year for the NFL awards ceremony. Many awards people felt should be given to other players, like the MVP award given to Lamar Jackson. This year there hopes to be less controversy, and I'll give you some award predictions for what I think is going to happen right now. We'll start with Defensive Rookie of the Year. We'll make our way up to MVP. First of all, with Defensive Rookie of the Year, my pick is Jared Verse of the Los Angeles Rams. He'll try to replace some of the production that they lost with Aaron Donald leaving on that D-line as he's at the edge position. He had 41 tackles, 9 sacks, and 2.5 tackles for loss at his last season at Florida State. And I think the number 19th overall pick is going to have a good impact as this team will make the playoffs, and he is my pick to win this award. Offensive Rookie of the Year, in my mind, is a no-brainer. My pick is Caleb Williams, who will have by far the best rookie year we've seen out of any of the offensive rookies. this season. He will lead the Bears to a playoff spot not only, but he'll also be the first 4,000-yard passer in the history of the Bears organization. He will already prove himself to be a top quarterback in the league, and sooner or later, we'll realize that he's the best quarterback the Bears have ever had. Caleb Williams is a prospect unlike many. He makes NFL level throws. He has all of the skill sets you want, and he has the intangibles. He's good for this team, and it'll work. Defensive Player of the Year, I'm giving it to the best defender in the league. I'm giving it to T.J. Watt next season. I think he should have won it last year, to be quite honest, and he'll definitely win it this year. That's all I'm going to say about it. It's going to be T.J. Watt. Offensive Player of the Year, I could see Tyreek Hill going for 2,000 yards this season if he doesn't get injured. I could see Justin Jefferson doing it. My pick is Tyreek Hill. Someone's going to break that barrier. I don't know if it'll be this year, but someone's really close. If Tyreek breaks that barrier, he's going to win it. I think he's going for it, and I think he will win the Offensive Player of the Year this season. Comeback Player of the Year is pretty straightforward. I think the pick is Joe Burrow. He was injured last season. He should be healthy for the upcoming year. And if he stays healthy, then the Bengals will be a contender, as we have seen when he is healthy. We got Coach of the Year next. My Coach of the Year is Shane Steichen. I like this pick. He's not number one in odds. I think he's just outside the top 5. Head coach for the Indianapolis Colts, was the offensive coordinator for the Eagles team that made it all the way to the Super Bowl just a couple years ago. But he's starting to look like the mastermind behind the team, as he's an incredible offensive coach. He's just an incredible head coach in general. Goes to the Colts, has an incredible season last year with Gardner Minshew. Anthony Richardson's going to be back healthy. He'll be second in odds for Comeback Player of the Year. The rookie only played a couple games before getting hurt and got out for the season. Shane Steichen will have a great football team this year. They will make the playoffs, and he will win Coach of the Year. And that leads us to our last but not least award, the Most Valuable Player. And the guy I picked for this is straightforward. It's Patrick Mahomes. He's the best quarterback we have ever seen. He's the second greatest quarterback of all time. He will three-peat and win an MVP in my mind this season, cementing himself as the greatest quarterback to ever do it. He's already had some incredible stat-filled seasons. He's had the most all-purpose yards for a quarterback ever, plus 41 touchdowns that season. He had over 5,000 yards his first season with 50 touchdowns. He's had 4,000-yard seasons every other year. It's been incredible to watch. If I had to ballpark it right now, 46 touchdowns, 5,000 yards, 10 interceptions. Could see a crazy season like that. See him raise that MVP and prove that he's the best of the best in this National Football League. Before we head out, let's talk a little bit about the NBA Summer League. Not too much. I did want to go over to the Lakers-Rockets game, see how Bronny did perform in his third game, but we'll start with Dalton Knecht. The first-round draft pick for the Los Angeles Lakers is warming up in his fourth Summer League game. Knecht shot 50%, going 9 for 18 from the field, 5 for 11 from three-point range. Knecht still looks like a major draft day steal as the Lakers look to retool under J.J. Redick. Slowly, and still, shooting percentage-wise, the numbers that we saw from Tennessee aren't exactly there yet, but he's just getting adjusted to the NBA game, and I'm sure it'll come along soon. Bronny James continues to slow with a stat line of 3 for 14 from the field, missed all of 8 three-point attempts, leaving him without a make in the Summer League so far. He shot a lot of them. He hasn't made any of them. He needs to be better. It is just a start. It's just the Summer League, but he has not played well at all. So if he wants to make a mark, this is not how you do it. The Rockets had promising performances by Reed Sheppard and Cam Whitmore. Whitmore went 8 for 17 from the field with 20 points. Reed Sheppard shined went 9 from 17 and 4 from 6 from deep with the 21 plus minus. Just wanted to break that game down. as we're looking at the Los Angeles Lakers throughout the summer league, seeing how Bronny James performs and what they can be. That's where we are going to leave off on episode 2. It's been a pretty good episode 2. Quality is getting a bit better. We're going to keep trooping. We're going to keep getting better. It's going to be fun. We're going to have a guest on next time. Should be still setting it up. That'll be a surprise. It'll be fun to see. We're going to talk about some new sports on the show on Thursday. Please keep tuning in if you enjoy. If you don't enjoy, like I said last episode, come back in a couple months. It'll be better then. But we're still figuring out. We're having fun with it. Thank you so much for listening. Have a great evening. Have a great rest of your day. Yeah.